The cold wind bit at my face as I stood guard on the rugged cliffs overlooking the Norwegian fjord. It was early 1940, and we had just arrived in Norway as part of the German invasion. The landscape was starkly beautiful, with snow-capped mountains plunging into deep, icy waters, but there was little time to admire it. Our mission was clear: secure the country and prevent the British from gaining a foothold. Our unit had been stationed near a small coastal village, tasked with guarding a strategic supply route. The Norwegians had put up some resistance, but their forces were small and poorly equipped compared to ours. Still, we remained on high alert, knowing that the British might try to disrupt our operations. The days were long and cold, the sun barely rising before it dipped back below the horizon. The nights were even colder, and the darkness seemed to stretch on forever. We were not used to this kind of weather, and many of us struggled to stay warm, despite our heavy coats and boots. The icy wind cut through our clothing, and our breath fogged in the air as we tried to keep moving to stay warm. One night, as I patrolled the edge of our camp, I noticed something strange. A flicker of light on the horizon, followed by a distant rumble. My heart raced as I realized what it was: British ships, possibly preparing to bombard our position. I alerted my comrades, and within minutes, we were all scrambling to our posts, ready to defend the camp. The first shells hit the water, sending plumes of spray into the air. Then, the explosions began on land, the ground shaking under our feet. The British were targeting our supply lines, trying to cut us off from reinforcements and supplies. We returned fire with our coastal guns, the night lit up by the flashes of artillery and the glow of burning wreckage. The battle was intense, the cold and darkness adding to the chaos. We could barely see the enemy, only the flashes of their guns in the distance. The sound of the explosions echoed off the mountains, making it impossible to tell where the next shell would land. We fought on, determined to hold our ground, but the odds were against us. As the hours passed, the British ships began to retreat, their mission to disrupt our supplies at least partially successful. The camp was damaged, several of our comrades were injured, and we were left to pick up the pieces. We knew that this was just the beginning. The British would return, and the fight for Norway would be long and brutal. In the days that followed, we repaired what we could and fortified our positions, but the tension remained. Every night, as the wind howled through the mountains and the cold seeped into our bones, we wondered when the next attack would come. Norway was far from the battlefields of France or Poland, but it was no less deadly. The harsh environment and the constant threat of attack wore us down, and we began to realize that this was a war unlike any we had fought before. We were soldiers of the Third Reich, used to quick victories and overwhelming force, but here in Norway, the land itself seemed to fight against us. The fjords and mountains, the snow and ice, all conspired to make our mission harder. And as the war dragged on, we began to see the cracks in our armor, the limits of our strength. Norway was supposed to be a quick and decisive campaign, but it became a long and grueling struggle, a fight not just against the enemy, but against the elements and our own doubts. Looking back, those cold nights in Norway were some of the hardest I ever faced. The battles we fought were not just against the British or the Norwegians, but against the land itself, a land that seemed determined to resist us at every turn. We held our ground, but the cost was high, and as the war dragged on, it became clear that victory would not come easily, if at all.